This is a story about you and me.
Our parents, our friends, our grandparents,
our cousins,
Our padrinos, our brothers, our sisters,
our past,
our present,
our future. This is a Mexican family story.
There was a time when Americans packed up their grievances, their dashed hopes, and their crumbling vows, and headed south of the border. Not for tacos or tequila, but for freedom. The mid-20th century saw a peculiar phenomenon, an exodus of disillusioned couples, desperate to cut the cord, descending upon Mexico to end their marriages in ways their home country wouldn't easily allow. It was messy, of course. Divorce always is. But this was a kind of mess that felt almost romantic, even cinematic. Picture it. Americans clad in mid-century finery, stepping off a train or plane in Mexico City or Tijuana or Juarez, clutching their suitcases and their papers. Some carried the weight of betrayal, others of boredom, others still of ambition that outgrew the confines of their partnerships. They were lawyers, actors, housewives, and businessmen. They were bold and desperate. And Mexico? Mexico didn't ask too many questions. In those days, the United States wasn't exactly handing out divorces like candy. Depending on the state, you needed evidence of adultery, abandonment, or cruelty to call it quits. Sometimes the process dragged on for years. Lawyers made a killing, and judges could be mercilessly judgmental. People were stuck, trapped in loveless unions or bound by societal expectations. But south of the Rio Grande, things were different. Mexico offered a peculiar kind of solace. States like Chihuahua and Baja California became havens for Americans seeking a quick and uncomplicated way out. The appeal was simple. The legal requirements were minimal, and you could wrap it up in days, not years. No waiting periods, no messy court battles. Sometimes one spouse could finalize the paperwork without the other even setting foot in the country. Cities like Juarez became known as divorce mills. It wasn't glamorous exactly, but it had a certain allure. Juarez was gritty, vibrant, and unapologetic. It was a border town that understood what it meant to be caught between worlds, which made it the perfect backdrop for these transitional moments in American lives. Couples checked into modest hotels or motels, shuffled through courthouse corridors, and waited out their 24-hour processing periods in smoky bars and dimly lit cantinas. The Mexican divorce wasn't just a legal maneuver, it was a cultural moment. Hollywood stars like Marilyn Monroe, Johnny Carson, Elizabeth Taylor, Charlie Chaplin, Katharine Hepburn, and Stanley Kubrick all found their freedom in Mexico. Their exploits only added to the mystique. If it was good enough for the stars, it was good enough for middle-class Americans looking to escape their own private dramas. But it wasn't without its ironies. Divorce in Mexico was fast and cheap, but it wasn't always clean. Some people discovered, years later, that their Mexican divorces weren't recognized in certain U.S. states. They had to get divorced again. Or worse, they found out they were still technically married. And then there were the stories of fraud, fake lawyers, counterfeit paperwork, and mysterious court clerks who vanished as soon as they were paid. It added a layer of unpredictability to an already chaotic experience. For all its pitfalls, though, the Mexican divorce had a certain dignity to it, a sense of agency. People who felt powerless in their marriages or in their lives could take control, even if it meant crossing a border and navigating a foreign legal system. They embraced the unfamiliar, the chaotic, and the absurd, because it was better than staying stuck. And let's not forget the food. Divorce, after all, is hungry work. After signing the papers, many newly single Americans found solace in the flavors of Mexico. A bowl of pozole at a roadside stall, smoky and rich, could feel like a kind of rebirth. Tacos al pastor, with their vibrant punch of pineapple and chili, reminded them that life still had sweetness, even after bitterness. For some, the act of eating became an affirmation. They were free, and they were alive. By the 1970s, the Mexican divorce boom had faded. American laws caught up, making divorce more accessible back home. No longer did couples have to cross borders to end their marriages. The Juarez courthouses quieted, and the motels that had once bustled with soon-to-be exes turned their attention back to weary travelers and truck drivers. But the legacy remained. The Mexican divorce was a testament to human resilience and ingenuity. It was proof that when people want something badly enough, freedom, closure, a new beginning, they'll find a way, even if it means stepping into the unknown. Today it's easy to romanticize those mid-century divorces, to see them as daring acts of rebellion, and maybe they were, but they were also deeply human. They were messy and imperfect, just like the people who sought them. They were stories of heartbreak and hope, of endings and beginnings, played out against the backdrop of a country that, for a brief moment in time, offered Americans something they couldn't find at home, the chance to start over. Would it have been better if they'd found a way to make things work? Who knows? All we can say is that they came, they signed, and they left. Lighter, freer, and forever changed. And maybe as they sat in that cantina nursing their tequila, staring out at the dusty horizon, they felt something they hadn't felt in years. Possibility.